Welcome to NBA Jam PatmanQC on Fire Edition. Boom shakalaka!
Christmas little games. Hey everyone, before getting started, I just wanted to let everyone know I'll be doing a Christmas live stream Christmas Eve, December 24th at 6 p.m. Central Time, where I'll be discussing my favorite Christmas memories, what I got for Christmas, and possibly a little Christmas karaoke. And of course, anything and everything you all want to chat about. Hope to see you there. Christmas time always brings a smile to my face. Before getting into my favorite Christmas games of all time, let's go back to the early days when a young prepubescent PatmanQC had visions of sugar plums dancing in my head, and I was so excited I couldn't get to sleep while I waited for Santa Claus. Santa was very generous to me as he brought me a ColecoVision one year. Another, it was a Nintendo Entertainment System. Finally, it was the Coleco Tabletop Donkey Kong that I always wanted. Also mixed in there somewhere, it was pretty much an entire Batman Christmas. I received a Bat Machine, which was a big wheel but in the Batman motif, a life-size Batman puzzle, and a number of different Batman Migos, which, I swear to you, were not dolls. Speaking of dolls, I had such good parents because on one particular birthday, which just so happens to take place a couple of weeks before Christmas, I really wanted a Batgirl Migo just for the simple fact that you could remove her mask. I thought this was the coolest thing, and I always thought it was neat whenever Batman would take his mask off in the comics. When I told my older brothers about wanting this female action figure, they sort of raised one eyebrow and laughed a little under their breath. Well, I did get that Batgirl figure for my birthday, but my parents waited until all of my friends had left the party before they gave it to me, just in case. Anyway, back to Christmas, we would always get the Sears and JCPenney catalog, and my parents would let me pick a couple of small things for potential presents that Santa could bring. I'm sure a lot of you in the audience remember these catalogs, and they sure do bring back a wave of nostalgia whenever I see them. Anyway, video games and PatmanQC have been a match made in heaven as far back as I can remember, and when you throw Christmas into the mix, it gets even better. Now, there weren't a whole lot of Christmas-related video games, but I have picked some of my favorites, and I'm sure some of these are your favorites as well. So let's get started with PatmanQC's favorite Christmas-themed games. A lot of these games were simple promotional items to help promote existing video games or simply unlockables. However, that doesn't take away their Christmas spirit or their fun gameplay. Jazz Jackrabbit came out initially in 1994 for MS-DOS, and it's a cross between Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario, but it features a fast green rabbit. The game was released initially as shareware, but it was extremely popular, resulting in a number of sequels over the years, including a version for the Game Boy Advance. The game feels very much like Zool, which was the Amiga's attempt at a Sonic the Hedgehog style game, only not quite as polished. Jazz is divided into 6 episodes, with each episode taking place across 3 planets, and each planet having 2 levels. At the end of each level is a boss you have to defeat, similar to Sonic and other platformers at the time. Also, the faster you run, the higher you can jump, which you will need to do in order to reach those otherwise unreachable pickups. These pickups include food, point bonuses, and shields that will protect you. In December 1994, a special shareware version of the very first Jazz Jackrabbit title was released, entitled Jazz Jackrabbit Holiday Hair 94. This is really cool with a number of new Christmas-themed enemies and snow-covered platforms. The pickups include candy canes and other festive treats. Also, you get a nice medley of Christmas tunes playing in the background, which sounds great. The following year, they released the 1995 edition, which upped the ante as far as graphics and playability goes. The game is just a good, silly, Christmas-themed platformer that's a whole lot of fun to play. It definitely gets you into the Christmas spirit. But a Christmas-themed game that I had fun playing back in the day was, surprise, surprise, Elf Bowling. As I said, it's definitely not a simulation, especially with the bowling pins having been replaced by Santa's little elves, and I'm not sure if any of them want to become dentists or not. This was initially a game released for Windows back in 1998, but started out as a promotional marketing content for the game studio Envision Design. Originally, people thought this was a virus due to it being only a .exe or single executable file that was able to be attached through emails. However, that wasn't the case. It was reported that 7 million people had played Elf Bowling just in the month of December 2000 alone. The game is extremely basic as far as bowling games go, but the graphics are nice and colorful, with Santa Claus being the one grabbing that big 16-pound ball and knocking over as many elves as he possibly can. On occasion, you will get a reindeer or a frog in a Santa hat stepping on the lane to obstruct your shot. There is an arrow that moves left and right, and you have to press the spacebar where you want the ball to go. Scoring rules are traditional bowling style, with you having 10 frames, and if you're good enough to get a strike, Santa lets out a big ho 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 in celebration. Every so often, the little elves will hurl insults at Santa for missing them, or even drop trow, showing Jolly Saint Nick exactly what they think of him as a bowler. One thing I do like about this game is the pin setter and sweep, which removes the knocked over little jerks. The game would go on to receive a couple of different sequels and, believe it or not, even an Elf Bowling movie. Another fun-filled action title would be James Bond 2 Robocod. This is the sequel to the successful James Bond Underwater Agent that was released for a variety of platforms including the Amiga, Atari ST, and later ported to the Sega Genesis. This is a platform game that sees you take control of Secret Agent James Bond, in which you have to defeat a number of enemies and solve puzzles by performing various tasks. The game spoofed a number of James Bond movies with level titles such as License to Bubble, A View to a Spill, and Leak and Let Die, among others. It was a fun little game in its own right, but it really hit a stride when it came to the follow-up. The game takes place immediately after the previous one, but his archenemy Dr. Maybe has survived and taken over Santa's workshop. The very nice, very evil Dr. Maybe is holding Santa's workers hostage and has brainwashed many of them into becoming his assistants. You have to infiltrate Santa's workshop, retrieve the stolen toys, free the hostages, and defeat Dr. Maybe once and for all. This time, you are wearing an armor similar to Robocop, hence the name Robocod, and also have the ability to stretch thanks to his Expando suit. You can extend your body vertically to incredible lengths and grab hold of the platforms directly above you. There are bosses at the end of each level, and you even face off against a giant snowman at the end of the game. The game takes place across a wide variety of levels with excellent graphics and smooth animation, including parallax scrolling. There are lots of things to see in each level, and Santa's workshop looks great. There are lots of Christmas-inspired tunes, and it controls pretty good as well. The jolly big man with the beard even makes an appearance at the end of the game. It's a fun little platformer, and of all the versions to play, the Amiga conversion is my port of choice. One of my favorite first-person shooters back in the mid-90s was Duke Nukem 3D. This is often regarded as a groundbreaking entry into the first-person genre, utilizing a number of controversial images and graphic violence. Not only could you run around blasting all those nefarious enemies to bits, but you could always stop at the local strip club to let off some steam. This game featured a number of weapons, including online and LAN multiplayer games. It was also noteworthy for Duke's steroid-induced macho words of wisdom. In 1997, an expansion pack known as Duke Nuclear Winter was released. This add-on replaced Lunar Apocalypse with a new episode entitled Nuclear Winter. It's comprised of 7 levels, each one with a sprinkling of Christmas spirit littered throughout. The story revolves around Santa Claus having been captured and brainwashed by those dastardly aliens that Duke had previously taken down. Duke has to travel to the North Pole in order to rescue Santa Claus and save Christmas. Several of Duke's classic enemies have been redesigned with Christmas-themed costumes, including new enemies such as elves that fire shotguns, elves that fire machine guns, killer snowmen who throw snowballs, and even a new boss by the name of Santa Claus. A lot of people didn't like this add-on, but I thought it was cool with the added Christmas-themed material, including a number of Christmas songs playing in the background.
Holy shit.
Back in the early 90s, when my computer of choice was my wonderful Commodore Amiga, I would purchase import video game magazines that were only available in Europe. Over here in the States, I believe they only had one Amiga magazine, and it was just a general purpose magazine and nothing really dedicated to games. That wasn't the case over in Europe with magazines such as The One, Amiga Format, and Amiga Power, where floppy disks containing demos were routinely attached to each magazine. On one of these discs, there was a demo for Christmas Lemmings 1991, which contained 2 exclusive Christmas levels, as well as 2 levels from Oh No, More Lemmings, which was a sequel to the extremely popular Lemmings game. Lemmings was a blockbuster and was released on the Amiga, MS-DOS, Atari Lynx, and then later the PlayStation 2 as well. This is a puzzle strategy game which introduces little pin-headed lemmings that you have to guide through a number of obstacles to a designated exit. Each one has a different set of skills such as diggers, blockers, floaters, and bombers. After first booting up Christmas Lemmings, you will notice that everything has been given a nice sprinkling of snow, and some of the lemmings even feature Santa Claus hats. The music is excellent with a nice medley of classic Christmas tunes. The level layout is very cool with snow and ice everywhere, including a large snowman as well as a tiny gingerbread house. Each of the lemmings are attired in Santa Claus suits, and there are Christmas lights strung from the top. This was a really cool way to promote their product and also give us lemming fans a little extra treat at Christmas time. One of my favorite Christmas-themed games would have to be Christmas Nights, which is part of the Nights in a Dream video game for the Sega Saturn. The game was designed around the idea of flight and involves a character that resembles an angel that could fly like a bird. They wanted the gameplay to feel like you were actually inside of a dream. The graphics, animation, music, and gameplay were fantastic, and what really complemented this was the analog controller that was created specifically for this game. While the feeling of flight was good with a standard Sega Saturn controller, it truly shined with the Saturn 3D analog controller. You have your choice of a couple of different characters in which you have to collect a number of blue chips, flying through loops and walking across the landscape. It's a bit hard to describe, but while you are flying, you can do a number of acrobatic maneuvers and even link these together utilizing a unique combo system. You can also collect power-ups which will give you a speed boost and point bonuses. There are bosses at the end of each level as well. Christmas Nights was created as a direct result of Christmas Lemmings. They wanted to boost the sales of the Sega Saturn, but they also loved Christmas Lemmings and thought it would be a great way to do a Christmas-themed minigame in the Nights universe. In Japan, the game was bundled as part of a Christmas Sega Saturn set, but I received my copy on the cover disc of Sega Saturn magazine. As soon as you boot the game up, you will immediately see everything has been given a Christmas facelift with Christmas wreaths, trees, lights, gumdrops, and lots of snow. Even our titular hero is dressed in Santa Claus attire. And of course, we have some fantastic Christmas music playing in the background. There are also a number of unlockables such as the game soundtrack, music mixer, and even the ability to play as Sonic the Hedgehog. This was one of the games for the Saturn that used the clock feature, meaning that things will change depending on what date you play the game. For example, Santa Claus can be seen in the background if you play the game on December 24th or December 25th. This is a great update to an already fantastic game, but the amazing thing is that it was included as a freebie on one of your favorite magazines. You should definitely check it out. Now I know it's not a game, but a piece of software that I was utterly mesmerized with was the Jingle Disc for my Commodore 64. This title came on a single disc and looks to have been developed on the Apple II and then ported to the 64. It was released the following year for MS-DOS in 1986, but it utilized that nasty PC speaker. However, when it comes to Christmas songs, I can deal with the beeper as long as the tunes are recognizable. Anyway, this software title came from a company by the name of Thoughtware, which produced management and training software. The software was quite expensive, costing close to $500 a piece, and this was back in the early 80s. Apparently though, the company did quite well. In 1984, as a token of appreciation for the company's clients and employees, they put together a floppy disk entitled Season Greetings from Thoughtware. It featured a number of animated graphics along with holiday music and a neat little Christmas greeting at the end. It received a positive reaction from employees and clients alike, so they decided to sell it in stores. It hit the store shelves in 1985, retitled as the Jingle Disc with some minor improvements to the graphics and audio. There was also something extra special at the end, which allowed you to print out your own greeting cards, provided you had a dot matrix printer. Now I loved playing around with the print shop software at school, so it was really cool to have something similar to use at home. As far as the audio goes, the 64 version beats them all thanks to the wonderful SID chip. This was the gold standard when it came to Christmas demos because it included a number of animated scenes along with Christmas tunes, all for the low cost of $9.95. One thing I noticed with the Commodore version even back then was that the animation was a bit choppy. The following year, the MS-DOS version was released, which gave users faster animated scenes and graphics that provided a bit more detail. That is, of course, you had the necessary horsepower. When it came to the MS-DOS version though, everything runs in the low-color CGA mode. As I mentioned, the audio is pure PC speaker, so it depends on what type of experience you are looking for. The overall demo only lasts for around 5 minutes depending on which version you get, but to me, it is the ultimate Christmas demo, and I'm sure a lot of my audience feels the same way. This product was so successful that they ended up creating the company High-Tech Expression, which would go on to produce the highly successful greeting card makers for home computers. I'll just let this entire demo play out. There you have it, everyone. my favorite Christmas-themed games, and one fantastic demo that still gives me the warm fuzzies whenever I see it. As I mentioned, I will be doing a Christmas live stream December 24th at 6 p.m. Central Time, where we will be talking about Christmas memories, what we got for Christmas, and possibly a little Christmas karaoke and everything else you all care to chat about. From the PatmanQC family, we hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.